Today, I'm going to take you through the first app that I vibe coded. The app, as it stands now, has evolved quite a lot since I first started to create it. The interface has changed, and the scope, while the scope has not changed in my mind, the original version that I started with and that I coded together was quite a bit smaller. So this is code that now sits in a repo on GitHub called DungeonGPT. In fact, this is the JavaScript version, so I've labeled it DungeonGPT-JavaScript. That's the original name that I had in my head, something like this. It started out purely as a character creator, and then I added on the AI Dungeon Master part afterwards, but that was the original idea in my head as I conceived it. I wasn't sure how far I would get, but I wanted to try and get there. In part, it was that I saw that people were using ChatGPT for a Dungeon Master, and I thought, wait, maybe that could be wrapped into a nicer looking UI. And also, you probably know of AI Dungeon. It's a program that's been around it's a website, I suppose. It's been around for a while, where you can use AI as a Dungeon Master. It's been around a good few years. I think maybe even as far back as 2020. It certainly predates the ChatGPT website. I don't quite remember what the GPT version was back then. I think it might even be like GPT-2 or something. I think it predates GPT-3. However, not that that really matters. I'm going to take you through some of this app and a little bit about how to play. So on the front page here, you can see various things such as creating a new character, looking at all the characters that have been created so far, and then starting a new game. You will need an API key from one of the main three providers. It can be either OpenAI or Gemini or Claude from Anthropic. I've set my Claude key, and I think it's because I have credits on that key, whereas the other keys, I don't have any credits left. I think that was my rationale for using Claude. Claude, is good. I think they're all pretty good. Google's falling a little bit behind with Gemini, so I would probably go to either GPT-5 in this or Claude. I think both should be pretty good. So I'll take you into the character creator. When I first created this, this was like the very first thing I tried to vibe code. It's not really vibe coding because you're not just going with vibes. I was asking ChatGPT to give me a React application where I can, enter a character name, that I can somehow save the character name, that I can give stats and all the rest of it. Here, what you can see is the evolution of that. In the first version, the first few versions, I had a button where I could press the button to ask AI to generate a character for me, and then I would parse the response and I would build a character based upon that response. However, LLMs have pretty poor randomness, so I don't do that. The characters here are all generated locally. The names are generated, and then there's templates. So what you can do is you can select like male, female. I guess we can create female. This name sounds a bit more female. Genevieve Evenfall. And then you can select a picture that you like. Maybe she can be a paladin. I think that's what this one is. So I'm going to go for that. And then a class template. So the usual kind of things that you find in these sorts of games. I'm going to make her a paladin. Mostly just I like the picture, so I'm going to make her a paladin. She's going to be a level 1. All characters will start at level 1. You can play around and you can actually change the level, but I think the app may not be well suited for later levels. I think the templates that I have in the background are all level 1 templates. So I apply this template and it'll apply the stats to the character. I think it's just a random race. I'm going to make it human. The portraits are all human portraits. I don't have a big selection of portraits. I've got one portrait for each class, and then basically male and female, but I haven't done it for all of the races. It's just a bit too much work. Lawful good is fine. It could be whatever. That's just coming from the template. And then the background, which was populated by the template, which again is something which is stored locally. It's all within the app. It's all there. So I'm fairly happy with that. And then I'd click Create Character, which would take you to this screen. It gives you a summary of your character and all of the things that you've selected. And this is your point where you can decide, okay, I want to keep this character, and you add it to the roster, or you want to go back and you edit it. In the original version, I did add this download the character as a JSON file. I think that's in case I thought that maybe you would want to import it somewhere else. I'm not sure if it makes sense. However, you can do that. There was a few things that I was testing and trying out, and I wasn't sure if it would make sense or if I would keep it or whatever. But it's these sort of things that you whenever you're creating, you don't necessarily know what the exact perfect outcome is going to be. So you try something and you basically just do it and see what happens. So let's add create this character to the roster. Successfully added. Yep, this looks a little bit rough with the alert pop-up. These are all the characters that I've created before. I have a mix of male and female characters. I guess it's mostly male. Mostly level 1. This level 5 is probably just me when I was testing. Obviously the race looks a bit messed up with the picture, but again, doesn't really matter. I can at least show you a working app that has multiple characters, and these have been saved into a database that's running in the back end. So you need to be running the database in order to get this application to work. I haven't put this game onto Vercel or anything sort of similar. It's something that's been in the back of my mind that I've been thinking about, and maybe it's something that I will do in the future. Right now you can see, hopefully you can see this if I do this little funky thing with my keyboard where I can bring down the terminal and I can show you the output from the database. These are all the different operations that are happening within the database, and it can show you that this character has been added. So if you didn't see that pop up, it could be just because of the way that the recording works and certain things which are captured by the recording software or not. It was just to show you the terminal popping down from the top of my screen where a character was added to the database. At this point you can start a new game, or you can go back and create a new character. At the top you can also see this nav bar where you can also select to come back to this page, which is the all characters page, or you can go and you can also create a new game from up here. So whenever you load the app, you're going to be on the home page. However, if you've already got a whole bunch of characters that you've already created, then you might come to this new game page and then type in what you want. It starts with settings. So what sort of settings do you want for the new game that you're going to play? Now keep in mind that this is an AI Dungeon Master, so you're putting in information that will be fed into the prompt that will go to the AI Dungeon Master. So I'm going to be a little bit lazy. I'm going to say the story is a typical high fantasy. I'm not going to play around with that too much. This is a free field where you can kind of put in whatever you want, up to a limit of 200 characters. The mood, this is kind of, if you're used to things like 40,000, Warhammer 40,000, you'll know of things like grim, dark. So it's a level of grimness and a level of darkness, which is like grim and bleak, or neutral and noble, and then dark, grey, and then neutral and bright for the darkness level, which I've just set for noble, bright. You could set it to be whatever. We could put it, let's put it kind of neutral or bleak, I suppose. I don't really want to cover so much of what those settings are, in part because I don't quite remember. It's things like whether your character's sacrifice actually means anything and will change the story. And then obviously that's like, I think that's like darkness, whereas the grimness is whether it's just a tough and unforgiving environment to live in, much like in 40,000 is rather grim and dark. Magic level, so sort of no, low, high, and then arcane. I think that was probably AI suggested and I just ran with it. A lot of these settings are not going to be perfect, and I think they'll be ironed out with various playthroughs. Technology level, again, sort of ancient, medieval, Renaissance, industrial. Sticking with medieval, whatever. And then over here, under AI settings, you can select the model that you want. So at the time of recording, these models are the latest models. I think I updated this within a month or so ago from the time of me recording this video. So you've got GPT-5, Mini, O4, and then 5, and then Sonnet or Claude 4.5 Sonnet. GPT-1 has been released. This app has not been updated to reflect that. Again, doesn't really matter. When you're watching this recording, these models may be completely newer still. Gemini 3 is on the horizon, and I dare say that Claude will be updating to another 4 point whatever soon, and then maybe 5 and all of that. So yes, it may sound outdated when you're watching, however, it was the latest models when I recorded. Prompt verbosity is how much detail do you want in the response from the AI. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And at the bottom we have a generate world map button. So I have a little key here to tell you what you see on the world map. This one is not desperately interesting, so I'm going to regenerate it. It's only got 2 towns. I was hoping I could get like 3. Oh, there we go, with like 4. And we have a town and a big city, which is the castle kind of thing. We've got a little hamlet and then a village. And they're all of different sizes. You can actually click inside these towns inside the actual main game. But they'll have different sizes inside the main game, so different meanings. But this is what we have for now. I quite like this map. You can see that the paths all nicely join up. It took quite a lot of work to get that. Down here at the bottom, it's got a town map generator. This is just for me testing. It may not be in the version that you'll see if you ever were to try out this code for yourself. So with that, we have world map created. I'm going to go on to select my heroes. I'm going to select the new hero that I just created. I will choose, I suppose I will choose this other female who's a fighter. So I've got a paladin and a fighter, and I guess we will take a ranger and this wizard. So you have up to 4 that you can select, and that's the maximum. You can also go with 1. I normally just like to select 4. And then start game. So this takes you into the game's UI. At the top you can still see the nav bar at the very, very top. So here is the adventure log. There's a big start button in the middle, and then you would just start chatting to the AI in order to play the game, and that's what you have. On the right side you can see the party members. So it's just a very brief overview. It's got their stats and then their level, race and class, and it doesn't have backgrounds or whatever. Then other things, like in the top left we've got the setting, which is typical fantasy setting, and then the location. So that's your location on the world map, and it's saying that it's plains. We view map and we can see we're actually inside a city, so it's plains, but there's a special point of interest, which is the a town rather than a city. You've got your little character icon, which shows you where you are. The yellow highlight around the box shows you that you're here, and then your character, which is your party leader, which is always character 1. And so you could enter into Whitehaven, although at the moment you can't because the game hasn't started, so you can't enter the town. It says in the little tip, let's start the adventure first. How to play. The settings, which is just to remind you of what it is. It also tells you about the AI that you've selected. You can actually change this while you're playing, so you can change to a completely different model from a different provider while you're playing. The context is managed in the background of the app with some summarization and a few other things. I don't quite remember the number of messages that I send to the AI. I think I send a few in order to give it a good context of what's happening, and so it will remember. This app is obviously, it's not finished. It is a little bit rough around the edges, but I think it works fairly well and people can still have fun with it. And of course there's a save button, so when you're playing you can naturally save it. It will automatically save at certain points, but if you want to be extra sure that your game is saving, then you can force this save now and it will save the very latest state. So let's click the Start Adventure button, and this is AI stinking, so this means that the request has gone out to the LLM provider, so in this case it's Claude, and it's come back with this response, which is based upon the prompt which is in the back part of the game, which says that you're on an adventure and it's a dungeon master and it should respond in the appropriate way. It'll provide the names of the party members and so on. At the bottom, I should note that you can actually change your, as I just said this, but you can actually, if you wanted to change it, you can change it here to a different LLM. So what do we have here? So the afternoon sun hangs pale and sickly over Wheathaven. So Wheathaven is the name of the town that you're at or you're next to. So if you look at the world map, you can hover over it and you'll see that this is Wheathaven, and it's plains, which is the biome for that square, and it's got a town, and it says explored. You haven't actually explored the town of Wheathaven, but you're basically there. So you would be on the outskirts. So sun is casting this sickly shadow, whatever, over Wheathaven, casting long shadows across fields that should be golden with wheat, but instead lie barren and brown. So we changed the grimness level up to be grim rather than what I had before, which was noble. So of course the world is going to be darker than it would be otherwise. The town's wooden palisade shows signs of hasty repair, with fresh timber patches standing out against weathered grey wood. A thin column of smoke rises from within, and you can hear the distant sound of hammering. Someone working with the dying light. So this obviously, it maybe sounds good at a high level, but of course it's not entirely clear what it's meaning. With AI, of course, it's not a human, so it doesn't think in the way that we do. So the intent is obviously very different from what we would do as humans. Which means that the response is sometimes kind of nonsensical or slightly nonsensical. As your party approaches the main gate, you notice it stands partially open, unguarded. The dirt road leading in is marked with deep wagon ruts and what might be dried bloodstains. A wooden sign near the entrance has been defaced, the town's name barely legible beneath crude scratch marks that look disturbingly like claw marks. So this obviously does make sense, and it's saying that there's something inside, something is happening. Possibly it's like a dragon or a monster or something, or like some sort of scary animal. From within the palisade you hear raised voices, an argument perhaps, or a heated discussion. The air carries the faint scent of ash and something else. Something rotten. What do you do? So, just to show you how this works, I will type in my action here. Again, this is just a video to show you that the game does work and that you can play it, not that the game is perfect, or that I'm going to play the absolute perfect game to show you. I don't want this video to be too long, and I realise we're probably getting to, we're over 19 minutes now when I'm doing this recording, and I'm mindful that I don't want to get too long in this video. I don't want to really go much beyond like 30 minutes if I can avoid it, hopefully much less. So what do you do? So my party's on the outside of a town. It sounds like there's something happening. It sounds a bit grim. I could go into the map and go straight into the town, but we'll have a bit of a look around first, just to see if there's any clues. Can we walk around the outside of the town? just to see if we can find more clues of what has happened here. It seems like there might be a scary monster. So I'm treating this somewhat like you would with a human, with the way that I type. I'm not going to be following like perfect D&D rules here of what you can or maybe can't say, because you're dealing, and it's the same for you. Whenever you're playing, do something which is fun and that you enjoy and that you think is fun. So let's have a look around for more clues, and I'm going to send this. So there's a little send button, and then the AI is thinking, which means that my request is going to Claude, and then it's going to come back with a response, and the game will progress. So I got back pretty quickly. It's just a short paragraph of text. So the party circles the perimeter of Wheathaven. The UIs have jumped a little bit there. The party circles the perimeter of Wheathaven's wooden palisade, boots crunching through brittle dead grass. Along the eastern wall you discover a gaping breach. Several logs splintered inward as if something massive forced its way through. Deep furrows in the earth lead from the breach towards the town centre. Scattered around the openings are torn scraps of cloth, rusted farming tools, abandoned in haste, and more of those disturbing claw marks gouging the wood. Continuing around to the north side, Warwick spots a makeshift graveyard beyond the fields. Far too many fresh mounds for a town of this size, perhaps 24 or more. So it kind of suggests that there's been some monster that's come along, and possibly it's a dragon. It's people have been killed, and then people have been put into mass graves. A few crude markers bear recent dates, so they've been killed recently, all within the last 2 months. Near the western wall you find the burned remains of what might have been a watchtower, now just charred timber and ash. So again, if something's burnt out, there's a good chance it's been a dragon. The raised voices from within have grown louder, and you can now make out words, someone shouting about the beast and another night. The argument sounds heated. The town's main gate remains the obvious only entrance aside from the breach. So you could tell the AI that you want to go inside, and it will take you inside. It doesn't fully link that action with going inside the town through the world map. So when you press enter Wheathaven here on the world map, it will take you inside such that you can see a new map of the town inside, like this. So when I was coding this up, I was trying to code this up in such a way that the AI would trigger, a request would trigger with the AI to let it know that I want to go inside the town. And you can see here that my character is on the bottom edge of the map. You can see some paths, you can see some houses, some trees. There's different buildings inside, such as there's a temple and there's a tavern. These are just emojis that are just standard emojis. They obviously represent something else. This is not going to be the greatest artwork. Yes, I appreciate that, but I needed something in order to actually just build the app. And you can see there's all paths connecting all of these houses, which I thought was quite nice. So let me close that. I want to see how this works. So you've entered Wheathaven, so it says that you've done that. In the past it was that this would trigger a request with AI, but it seems that it may not have. So the game essentially knows that you're here, so you're inside rather than on the world map. And now that we're inside, I will I'll walk around a little bit. So you can walk up to 5 tiles. That's just the number that I've chosen for now while I'm playing and testing. So these other further away icons in the map, such as the tavern and the faraway houses, you can see it's just a regular arrow cursor, whereas if you're closer, you'll see that the cursor turns to a little hand pointing to where you can go. So let's test this out. I'm going to move my character up here. So we started here at this gate, and now we are up there. I will close the map and I will see if AI updates. So it hasn't. So there's maybe something that I need to fix in here. But at least we're inside Wheathaven, and the AI can respond. You can see that you can have the back and forth. It's a little bit rough, this app, or immature in the sense that there's no combat yet in a proper sense. There's no dice rolls, and that's something that I want to look at, and it's something I want to add next, but I haven't done it. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to show you the very last page, which is the saved games screen, where we have our saved games, and these are all stored within the database that I'm running locally for the purpose of this demonstration. So this is the very last one, which is from today, which is the time of recording. So I'm recording just in the afternoon, and it's the 17th of November. You can see that I used Claude, as you know. You can see the characters, which is got the new character. This is Genevieve, and the location of where we are in a map, and then the settings that we had. And it's the same for all of the previous games that I've been playing. It's got all of the settings, which means that you can fully restore where you were within your previous stories, which I thought was quite nice. It took quite a lot of testing and playing around to get that right, and it was a bit of a headache. And at the bottom you can go back home, or you can start a new game, obviously, and you've got the nav bar at the top. So I think that's basically all of the functionality of the game as it stands right now. Here we are in November 2025. So it's a character creator. You can also go and play a RPG game where the AI is the dungeon master, and this was the evolution of the very first app that I ever tried to vibe code. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to tell you about this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you can like the video, that helps. That'll help with the algorithm, so hopefully other people can discover this in a natural way. And if you want to see more content like this, where I'm talking about the games that I've created and talking about the different apps that I've created with AI, that would be appreciated. And then hopefully I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching.